Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from the second canto, 9th chapter, 20th verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tvayaham Toshitah Samyag Vedagarbha Shishrikshaya Chirambrtena Tapasa Dushto Saha Kutha Yogina Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tvayaham Toshita Samyag Vedagarbha Shishrikshaya Chirambrittena Tapasa Dushto Sakuta Yogina Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tvayaham Toshita Samyag Vedagarbha Sisrikshaya Chirambrtena Tapasa Dushtusa Kuta Yoginam Matajis. Word to word meaning, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The all beautiful personality of Godhead said, Tvaya, by you. Aham, I am. Toshitaha, pleased. Samyak, complete. Vedagarbha, impregnated with the Vedas. Sishrakshaya, for creating. Chiram, for a long time. Brittena, accumulated. Tapasa, by penance. Dushto saha, very hard to please. Kutha yogina, for the pseudo mystics. Translation: the beautiful personality of Godhead addressed Lord Brahma. O Brahma, impregnated with the Vedas, I am very much pleased with your long accumulated penance with a desire for creation. Hardly am I pleased with the pseudo mystics. There are two kinds of penance, one for sense gratification and the other for self realization. There are many pseudo mystics who undergo severe penances for their own satisfaction, and there are others who undergo severe penances for the satisfaction of the senses of the Lord. For example, the penances undertaken to discover nuclear weapons will never satisfy the Lord because such a penance is never satisfactory. By nature's own way, everyone has to meet death, and if such a process of death is accelerated by anyone's penances, there is no satisfaction for the Lord. The Lord wants every one of His part and parcels to attain eternal life and bliss by coming home to Godhead. And the whole material creation is meant for that objective. Brahma underwent severe penances for that purpose, namely to regulate the process of creation so that the Lord might be satisfied. Therefore, the Lord was very much pleased with him, and for this, Brahma was impregnated with Vedic knowledge. The ultimate purpose of Vedic knowledge is to know the Lord and not to misuse the knowledge for any other purpose. Those who do not utilize Vedic knowledge for that purpose are known as Kuta yogis or pseudo-transcendentalists who spoil their lives with ulterior motives. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapt Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate giram yat kripa tamaham mande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. So it's before I try to speak on this most exalted subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, especially His Grace Gaurila Prabhu, so that he blesses me, so that I can try to make an attempt to speak something on Srimad Bhagavatam. I also like to take the blessings of the Lord that whatever I may speak may be in parampara. So many of you must be surprised why I am here. Actually, for some reason, His Grace Balram Nitai Prabhu is not feeling well. He's bedridden. So we can pray for his health, that he recovers fast from his sickness. So that's why I'm here today. So, in this particular verse, who is speaking? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is speaking to Lord Brahma. Where what is Lord Vishnu saying? Lord Vishnu is saying that I'm very pleased. So pleased with what? Your austerities, your penances that you have performed. So this entire section from 2.99 to 2.921, Lord Vishnu, he bestows 4 fruits of austerity. Brahma is performing tapasya, right? In the beginning, he heard these 2 syllables called ta, pa, ta, pa. As a result of that austerity that he has performed, this section talks about the 4 fruits of austerity. So the first fruit that Lord Vishnu offers to Lord Brahma is spiritual revelation. And how do we understand that? That was, just previous to this, there was a beautiful description of all the spiritual planets. So whenever austerity is performed in service or for the sake of service, then what happens as a result? What is the first fruit of austerity is revelation. And in the case of Brahma, what was the revelation that he had got? It was the revelation of the spiritual world, right? That is the first fruit of austerity. The second fruit of austerity in service is, like Brahma, a person or a devotee is offered a responsible position. Because of his tapasya, because of his penance, his austerity, he gains the trust of his superiors. And the superiors understand him to be competent enough. And therefore, the second fruit is he's offered a responsible position. That's the second. The third that we see in this particular verse, that Lord Vishnu is appreciating Lord Brahma's efforts in his austerities. And that is what today we are seeing. I'm very much pleased with your long accumulated penance with a desire for creation. And this desire for creation is not Brahma's desire. It is very much in alignment with Lord Krishna's desire for creation. And that is why Lord is congratulating. He's thanking thanking Brahma for aligning within his desire of performing this task, this most difficult task. And the next verse is, which we will be seeing tomorrow, we'll be seeing tomorrow, is benediction. So these are the 4 fruits of austerity. One is revelation. The second is you are offered a responsible position. The third one is appreciation for the service that one has done or for the austerity that is performed. And the last one is, because of the austerity performed, then the superior benedicts. He blesses with, he blesses with realizations, profound realizations that he gets on the path of bhakti. So you see, these 4 fruits of austerity that is described here is not only relevant to Brahma. It is very much also applicable to our spiritual lives, where we can also observe. When we perform austerity in service, automatically what happens? We get revelations. We get revelations. we get a position because of the trust that has been built, has been inlaid in us, and then we get appreciation and also benedictions, right? So we see this theme resonating not only with Brahma, but many of the personalities in Srimad Bhagavatam or even our contemporary acharyas, before undertaking any major project or undertaking any major task, you will see the devotee performs austerities. And what is the purpose of that austerity? The purpose of austerity is so that he can prepare himself for that particular task or that particular project. Like for example, we see examples in the Bhagavatam. The classical example that we are studying is Brahma, how he has undergone austerities. Daksha sent his sons, the Harishwaras and the Shavalashvas, in order to perform austerity. Before they enter into the Grahastha ashram, it is very important that they perform austerity, and therefore Daksha had sent his sons. Even Arjuna, before fighting the battle of Kurukshetra, he also performed a lot of austerities and penances, in order to please Lord Shiva, in order to acquire the Pashupatastra. He went to various places in order to gather weapons before fighting the battle of Kurukshetra. We also see our contemporary acharyas like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur underwent the austerity of chanting 1 billion names for 9 years continuously before he embarked on the journey of starting a movement. So we see Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And what about Srila Prabhupada? Our beloved Srila Prabhupada? There's an entire book, volume 1, which is entitled A Lifetime in Preparation. A lifetime of austerities, a lifetime of residence, in Delhi, Vrindavan, where he was preparing himself for that, embarking that journey to the West on the instruction of his spiritual master. So we see this principle of austerity is very, very much prevalent in our parampara also. Before any major task or project is taken. Now, Srila Prabhupada, very beautifully, in the purport, he's saying there are two kinds of penance. One for sense gratification and the other for self-realization. And the classical example that comes to my mind with regards to tapasya or penance that is formed with regards to one's own sense gratification is, any guesses? Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is a classical example. If you read the particular section in the Bhagavatam, especially the 7th canto, 8th chapter, when Brahma, he comes to see Hiranyakashipu, he tells him that Hiranyakashipu, the austerities that you performed are totally astonishing. You have such endurance, you have such tolerance that you could tolerate the eating, and you could tolerate being bitten by worms and insects. You could tolerate them, and your life air was circulating within your bones. So such was the austerities that were performed by Hiranyakashipu. Yes, if you see a person doing bhoga, he's doing enjoyment. You naturally tell that person you should perform some austerity. You're enjoying too much. Yes, that is right. But more than the action, now apparently the action of Hiranyakashipu performing austerity from an external point of view seems to be very glorious, seems to be very astonishing. But as Bhagavad Gita says, behind the action, the intention is what is very important. The intention behind the action is very, very important. And that is what is Krishna's emphasis in the Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna is saying Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, yes, that is the means. But what is Krishna looking for? Krishna is looking for that element of bhakti. So therefore, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj also very often says, it is not the thing that we offer, it is the intention behind which that thing is offered. So therefore, what is the thing that needs to be talked about is not the external action, but the intention behind the action. And even though Hiranyakashipu was performing severe austerities, but what was his intention? His intention was to, to overcome all the demigods, to kill Vishnu. That was his intention. So that was his notorious plan. So in this purport, yes, we understand intention is important, but Srila Prabhupada so expertly in this purport not only condemns intention, but he also condemns action. And what is the action that he condemns? If you read, for example, the penances undertaken to discover nuclear weapons. To discover nuclear weapons will never satisfy the Lord, because such a penance is never satisfactory. So we can see that is why Srila Prabhupada is in this purport is emphasizing the action of performing tasks by the modern scientists, like building big factories, building big mills. That's what Srila Prabhupada would very often call it as Ugra Karma. He would blatantly call it as Ugra Karma. This is sinful activity, or as the Bhagavad Gita says, it is Vikarma, it is bad activity. So therefore, that kind of activity Srila Prabhupada would very much condemn. And that is why he would not hesitate to call the scientists fools and rascals. Because he knew what work they were doing, it was of no use. It was just simply for the purpose of propagating sense gratification. Once Srila Prabhupada was going on a morning walk. And during that morning walk, Srila Prabhupada suddenly stops at that moment and he starts digging the sense with his hand, the sand. And all disciples are wondering, what is Srila Prabhupada doing? And then Srila Prabhupada said, see, what do the scientists do? They dig. And what do they dig? They dig for bones. And then after that, they come to a conclusive evidence that life has begun. So this is what the scientists are doing. The scientists are performing so much austerities. Like recently, I went to Akhilatma Prampuru's room. And he was asking me, I want to translate this device test paper into Hindi for a program. So I told him, no, why don't you use ChatGPT? You will write a statement. You will be able to, translate it, get it in a form of a PDF, and you'll get it. And then Akhilatma Prabhu's reaction was, very amazing. He said, my God, how much intelligence people must have put, to make all this. What an utter waste of time. So I was impressed by the technology of ChatGPT, but what was his perspective? Just simply Ugra Karma, He was not at all impressed by it. So I was impressed, him being not impressed by the technology. So therefore, there's nothing so fascinating about the technology that we are surrounding with, because that is just, putting us into further turmoil. That is becoming a cause of even more diseases, even more misery, even more distress, even more depression that people are undergoing today. So we see, like even, that famous example, the house, people perform such austerity. Like once Srila Prabhupada was in, Japan, where he was negotiating for his Bhagavad Gita, with the Dai Nippon, the Dai Nippon company. And at the end of the entire interaction, he asks the executive there, so can you tell me, what is the goal of your life? And what does that person do? He accumulates a bunch of business cards. He takes out his business card, puts it in the center, removes it from it, and it puts it on the top. And Prabhupada is seeing it with such big eyes. Just see, this is the goal of his life. And that person did not say anything. And Prabhupada understood. So people are ready to perform such austerities, such tapasya, in order to get to any levels of success, maybe in the corporate ladder or maybe anywhere, because the intention is what? Sense gratification. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is condemning in this particular purport. It will never satisfy the Lord, because such a tapasya or such a penance is never satisfactory. It will neither satisfy the Lord, neither it will satisfy you also. So that is the nature, right? On the other hand, is the Vedic austerity that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, 5th verse. Yagya dana tapa karma natyajam karyameva tat yagyodanam tapaschaiva Pavanani Manishinam. So what is that? What is that austerity? Yes, Krishna is saying, you have to do yajna, you have to do dan, you have to do tapasya. So when we do perform such kind of activities, what happens? Pavanani Manishinam. Even the great souls are further purified by the performance of such activities. While Krishna in the 18th chapter describes about these, the importance of performing yajna, dan and tapa, in the 17th chapter, he classifies these very three things into different modes. Right? So we see austerity. Krishna talks about it very beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita, in the verses, I think 18, 19, 20, in that particular section, 19, 20, 21, where he talks about tapasya in the mode of ignorance. So what is tapasya in the mode of ignorance, or what is penance in the mode of ignorance? It is persecution of others. Now, wanting to injure others, wanting to harm others, wanting to prosecute others. And the classical example we see that of is Bhasmasur. What was the intention of Bhasmasur or Narakasur? Vrikrasur. He performed austerity or penance. He prayed to Lord Shiva so that he could get the benediction of whomever he touches his head upon, that person should be killed at that particular instant. And after being benedicted by Lord Shiva, what did he do? He ran after Lord Shiva with the intention of wanting to get Mother Parvati. That was his intention, But we all know what happened at the end. So how, he went in the pursuit of persecuting others, but he himself got persecuted, right? So we see how Tamagun, austerity performed in the mode of ignorance. Then we have austerity which is performed in the mode of passion. Austerity that is performed in the mode of passion is just basically to show your superiority, how you are superior to others, right? And therefore, the purpose of that austerity is just how I am great, how I can do better than others, right? Like for example, many a times, when we have Nirjala Ekadashi, now you may be performing this, Nirjala Ekadashi, but a person may be standing at the kitchen door, seeing who all are entering to take prasadam. So, and many a times, that subtle kind of joy that comes from within. See, I'm so successfully able to perform the austerity of Nirjala. I'm not drinking water, I'm not eating a grain. So yes, and while internally we may be kind of subtly, condemning or making fun. Oh, see that devotee, he cannot even put up the austerity of one day fasting. So yes, our body may be fasting, but our ego is feasting. That is what is happening. So therefore, we have to be very, very careful with this kind of, this kind of austerity is not anukul for bhakti. It is very, very pratikul. In such austerity, one cannot make advancement. Like even many a times we have this book distribution marathon where devotees gear up. Yes, let us go for book distribution. But many a times what happens, especially, during Srila Prabhupada's time, what would devotees do in order to compete with each other? They would have a separate parties, they would have a separate buses, but in order to compete with the other party, they would puncture the tire of the other party so that they could gain superiority. They could, they could get the numbers so that Prabhupada would be pleased. But would Srila Prabhupada be pleased with such a competition, with such a so-called competition? No. So therefore, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj would say, yes, let us do such book distribution. Let us do such book distribution that we get the highest numbers. At the same time, we are last. That is the mood. Yes, let me perform such book distribution that we get high numbers, but we are last. That is the intention of wanting to bring the Vaishnavas in the forefront. And when Vaishnavas are in the forefront, the Lord is pleased. Krishna is pleased. And that kind of competition is also seen, like we see in book distribution, we also see in the spiritual world. In if you read the Samudra Manthan Leela, there the demons, while they are competing for getting the nectar, they are saying, aham purvam natvam nottam prabho iti. Aham purvam, I am first. I should be first in getting the nectar. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, these same words are used. Aham purvam, aham purvam. And that is being used by whom? The Gopas. Why? In order to chase Krishna. But Maharaj in one lecture, he beautifully describes what is the mood of that aham purvam. They want to touch Krishna, they want to chase Krishna so that they can inspire the other cowherd boys. So if I run fast and I touch Krishna, the other devotees seeing me will get inspired to run faster than me and then touch Krishna. That is what is called transcendental competition. That is what is called competition in the spiritual world. Unlike the competition that we see in this material world, where everyone wants to just pull the other person down. And that is what Radheshyam Prabhu would very often call it as the crab mentality, right? So this is not what is appreciated. And that is why Srila Prabhupada, as he is saying in this particular translation, Lord Vishnu is saying, hardly am I pleased with what? The pseudo-mystics. Why is Lord Vishnu not pleased with the pseudo-mystics? Because their penance is very much under the categorization of austerities performed in the mode of ignorance and passion. That is why the Lord is saying, I am not pleased with them. I am not at all pleased with them. Even Srila Prabhupada would not very much get impressed by these kind of mystical feats or by these magical feats. This very, very beautiful pastime comes where this very famous magician called P.C. Sarkar had gone to Vrindavan in 1976 in Krishna Balram Mandir, where all devotees were gathered around Srila Prabhupada, and P.C. Sarkar was playing magical tricks where he would take a coin and suddenly disappear it and it would appear from Srila Prabhupada's ear, and Prabhupada would have a good laugh, and all devotees also would have a good laugh, but at the same time they would get very much uneasy because they felt, how can this mundane magician do some magical tricks on our spiritual master who's a pure devotee Paramahamsa? And therefore, Srila Prabhupada suddenly became very grave. He said, can you do the magic that I have done? P.C. Sarkar said, what magic? I have helped the world to overcome. I have the magic trick as to how to overcome birth, old age, disease, death. Can you do that? P.C. Sarkar became humbled and he just sat there and listened to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada took the superior position and then preached Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Srila Prabhupada was not very much impressed by these mystical feats. But Srila Prabhupada also would give the story of, would give very often a story of, of how a disciple went to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his Guru Maharaj, and told them, Guru Maharaj, see, this particular person can perform such mystical feat of walking on the water. How amazing it is. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, what is this two-cent mystical yoga system? You just pay 2 cents to the boatman and I can cross the river. I need not perform a lifelong tapasya in order to get this mystical feat. So therefore, our acharyas were not at all impressed, and very much in our parampara, very much in our sampradaya. Lord Vishnu is not impressed, so therefore the pure devotee of Lord is also not impressed with all these kind of feats. So therefore, so that is austerity in the mode of passion and ignorance, and austerity in the mode of sattva is what? Purification. But even in austerity in the mode of goodness, which is good, but the intention is again oneself. But austerity which is performed in the mode of Shuddha Sattva, it's for the clear intention of wanting to please the Supreme Lord. And we see the classical example of the gopis of Vrindavan. Once I was recently reading this particular book by Gaur Govind Maharaj, Mathura Meets Vrindavan, very beautiful book. So he gives this, he narrates the story of in Dwarka when Narad Muni, he had gone to Lord Krishna. This particular Leela is the Jwara Leela, where Lord Krishna, he's having fever. And Narad Muni comes and asks him, what happened? And Narad Krishna says, I have fever. Oh, do you want some, can I do something for you? Can I give you some medicine? Krishna says, no, the only medicine that is, I want the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. And then what does Narad Muni do? Narad Muni, where does he go first? He goes to the queens of Dwarka. He first goes to Mother Rukmani, and asks, I want the dust of your lotus feet because Krishna is having a fever. Oh, how can you say that? If I give the dust of my feet, then I will go to hell. So he approached Mother Rukmani, Mother Satyabhama, and all the queens of Dwarka, but none of them agreed to give the dust of their feet. On the other hand, when he went to Vrajbhumi, he went to Vrindavan and asked the gopis, kindly please give the dust of your lotus feet. The Vrajvasis, without even a single thought, not even a moment of hesitation, they gathered a cloth and they were competing that I will give the dust of my lotus feet, And that is how Gaur Govind Maharaj gives a very beautiful lesson. He says, oh, this is what is Kevala Bhakti. Kevala Bhakti means only and only for the pleasure of the Lord. But whereas the Bhakti which is performed by Dwarkavasis, of course, it is not to be ridiculed, but it's far much better than what we do. It's far more superior. But Gaur Govind Maharaj says that Bhakti is infused with Gyan and Aishwarya. So therefore, that becomes inferior to the Bhakti that is performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. And therefore, this Bhakti, Shuddha Sattva, is only for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Only. There is no consideration of one's own inconvenience. There is no consideration of the difficulties that I am undergoing. Let me undergo those difficulties as long as Krishna is pleased. So therefore, that is the consideration in Bhakti which is performed in Shuddha Sattva. And that is what Srila Prabhupada did. Srila Prabhupada performed such austerity. I recently given that class of, Srila Prabhupada had, Srila Prabhupada's arrival to America. So I'm just remembering one point where I could not mention it that time, but I'll mention it here. Where in America, what was it? Yeah, there was what is his name? Timothy Leary. There was a famous, what was he? A pop singer, a drug addict. So he had formed a group called the LSD. Of course, all of us know LSD as a drug, right? But he performed a league. So he named the league as, LSD stands for the League for Spiritual Discovery. And anyone who is a part of that league, and when he becomes intoxicated by LSD, the chemical, he becomes an LSD saint, a saint of League for Spiritual Discovery. So once Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture, in 26 Second Avenue, where at that point of time hippies would come there. And Prabhupada was giving a lecture, and suddenly one hippie, under the intoxication of LSD, he started blabbering something. And Srila Prabhupada requested, one of the new disciples who had recently been initiated, that you kindly please tell him to sit down and, keep quiet. That disciple told Prabhupada, that will not be possible. Because if the neighborhood comes to know that you have done this, then, you will get a bad name. They will condemn you. And then Prabhupada said, this is hell. This was one statement. Prabhupada said, this is hell. Because in hell, what do we observe? In hell, what is considered, in bhakti, what is considered the lowest in hell is considered to be the topmost, right? So this Prabhupada said, this is hell. And that is the austerity that Prabhupada performed. Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan, which is the capital of devotion, to go to that Ugrastan, America, which is known as the capital of degradation. That is what Srila Prabhupada did. That is the austerity that Srila Prabhupada performed for all of us. So these are the austerities in three modes. And we can see austerity performed by Lord Brahma, because it is with his sole intention of wanting to please Krishna. This austerity is, Shuddha Sattva, performed just because he is very much in alignment with the desire of the Supreme Lord. So we have 10 minutes. So I will just also mention about, what should we do, what should happen and what should not happen when we perform austerities. So when we perform austerities, what should happen? It should lead to the openness of heart towards Krishna. what do you mean by openness of heart to Krishna? Openness of heart to Krishna means that because of the performance of devotional austerity, our heart becomes cleansed, right? And because of performing such an austerity, our heart becomes receptive to Krishna's mercy. So that is the first thing. What should happen? Openness of our heart to Krishna. Second, the purpose of devotional austerity is our absorption in seva should increase, right? So we see the 6 Goswamis. The 6 Goswamis performed such austerities. From an external point of view, you see, they minimized all their bodily needs. They would sleep under different trees. They would eat very, very less, right? But what was the purpose of the performance of that austerity? The sole purpose was to minimize the bodily time and to maximize Krishna time. That was their purpose of their austerity. Their purpose of their austerity was not for self-aggrandizement, not for portraying oneself. It was not that when Raghunathas Goswami was, performing austerity of accepting the refuse remnants of the cows and just drinking a sip of buttermilk. He did not want to he was not doing it for the purpose of fame. He was not doing it for the purpose, so that people would click photos or there would be a paparazzi. Sorry, paparazzi. Forget it, I would explain the term then. So basically, or photographers, chasing after that people, just see how much Raghunathas Goswami, what all austerities that he is doing. Or not, gather attention through Twitter or Facebook. No, that was not the intention. The intention was just solely for the pleasure of Krishna. That's it. That was his intention of his austerity. Just I want to maximize Krishna time. So this is, what should our austerity lead to? Our austerity should lead to, when we perform tapasya, like that is why during Ekadashis, why we have fasting till noon, even though it is not compulsory, but we have fasting till noon, so that we can increase our remembrance of the remembrance of Krishna. We can increase our smaranam. We can perform the austerity of chanting more rounds, to read more, to hear more. So that tapasya is very, very much required in order to come out of our comfort zone of our daily routines and perform this tapasya. And what should not happen? What should not happen? Many a times when we perform such austerities, our heart can become hard, right? Our heart can become hard. Just see, or our heart can be infused with pride, right? Like many a times also, in the course of preaching, right? Like I remember His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, if you remember, during the Gopi Geet series of seminars that he gave. So he made a very beautiful diagram. He said that if there is a person who is on a very high pedestal, he's anasakt. On the other hand, there's a person who is asakt. Now, for a person to make that leap or to make that jump is very, very difficult. It's not so easy. But the process of bhakti offers a bridge or a staircase, a setu. A setu which is simple, which is eternal, which is transformational, and which is universal. So, acronym, setu. So, it is like a bridge. So this process of bhakti, unlike the other paths that is described by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, like the Gyan Marg, the Ashtang Marg, if you compare it with Bhakti Marg, it is such a beautiful bridge. Because why? It is very, very simple. What is Krishna's expectation in Bhagavad Gita 9.26? Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Just by offering these few items in devotion to Krishna, Krishna is pleased. Simple, right? Then S stands for simple. E stands for the process of bhakti is eternal. Such a bridge which does not get crumbled. Like many a times, the bridges of this world, they get crumbled. They fall apart because of the passage of time. If not, maintenance is not done. But bhakti is a bridge which stands forever. It is eternal. It will not perish. Like if you compare it with the other bhakti margs, Jnana Marg and Ashtanga Marg themselves are material. But what gives that marg credibility is the elements of bhakti in it, which helps the practitioner to attain its destination. Right? So it is ultimately bhakti. On the other hand, those paths are very, very difficult to perform, And if it isn't for the process of bhakti, it is not possible to reach one's goal. So bhakti in that sense is eternal also. Then T, it is transformational. How bhakti, if you read in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the transformational potency of bhakti, where how even a person, api chet suduracharo, bhajate maam ananya bhak, sadhureva samantavya, samyak vyavasito hi saha, where Krishna talks about that even a person who apparently falls from his position, as long as he has nishtha in his performance of devotional service, the transformational potency of bhakti is that it can elevate him. And even by performing little bhakti, swa alpam api asya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayat. That is the transformational potency of bhakti. And most importantly, it is universal. In the other paths of yoga systems that Krishna described in the Bhagavad Gita, the other paths are very, very difficult. It is not universal. It is not that anyone can practice it. In order to be able to practice those paths, there is a prerequisite is required. Like for example, to practice Gyan Marg, your heart should have been sufficiently cleansed of all the material impressions before embarking on Gyan Marg. Because if a person who adopts the Gyan Marg and he turns back, the Shastras condemn him. What do they call him? They call him a Vantashi. That person who is the eater of his own vomit. It's so unimaginable, So, therefore, this is how the scriptures condemn. But the beauty of bhakti is that anyone and everyone can practice it. There is no restriction. The only qualification that is required is this shraddha. It is only that faith that is required in order to progress on the process of bhakti. So, and many times in bhakti, that faith is self-generative faith. The more you practice, the more faith you get. And on the basis of that faith, that gives you the further impetus to practice even more. So, therefore, this is the process of bhakti. It is so beautiful. So therefore, in the process of bhakti, what should not happen? As I said, our heart should not become hard. It should not become hard. Rather, when we perform devotional austerity, bhakti, our heart should become soft, like butter. And what is Krishna like? Krishna likes butter. And then he will steal your heart. That is why Krishna is called Makhan Chor. So therefore, he will steal your heart like this. So there's 1 minute left. I will just quickly summarize what we just saw today. So today, we just did a quick summary of the entire section, where the entire section talked about what are the 4 fruits of austerity. The first fruit of austerity is spiritual revelation, right? Spiritual revelation. Then one is offered a responsible position. He is appreciated by his superiors, and then because of his good service and austerity that he has performed, he is benedicted. He is given a benediction. And therefore, we saw different personalities from the Bhagavatam and our contemporary acharyas, how before they underwent any major task or project, they also performed austerities to purify their minds and their intention. And we saw how action alone, Hiranyakashipu also performed austerities. But we talked about how action alone is not sufficient, but the intention behind the action is very, very much important. And we see Hiranyakashipu's intention was just destruction. So, and that is what is modern austerity also. It follows the same line. And we give example of, how Srila Prabhupada condemned the modern scientist and the discovery of nuclear weapons. On the other hand, Vedic austerities, yes, Vedic austerities like yagya, dan, tapa is very much required, because that even purifies the, those souls were already purified. And then after that, we saw how tapasya, yagya, dan, tapa, because that is the subject matter of discussion, how that is classified into three modes. Modes of ignorance, which talks about persecuting others. In the mode of passion, it is talked about gaining superiority over another. And in the mode of goodness, purification of one's heart. But that also in itself talks about one. But in the mode of Shuddha Sattva, that austerity is only for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And for that we gave two examples of the gopis of Vrindavan and Srila Prabhupada himself. And then lastly, we discussed how austerity, what should happen in austerity and what should not happen in austerity. When we perform austerity, our openness, our heart should become more open to receive Krishna. And what happens? Our absorption in seva should increase. And what should not happen? Our hearts should not become hard. And I gave an example how in the course of preaching, when we want to elevate someone from the platform of from platform of asakta to anasakta, how bhakti yoga is a beautiful setu or a bridge, which through this acronym we can understand the beautiful glory of bhakti yoga, how it is simple, how it is eternal, how it is transformational, and how it is universal. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.